Hello, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this bas-relief unicorn head. They are really popular at the moment, so I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so to make this bas-relief unicorn I have drawn a little template which I'm going to use to cut the background out with. So for the background I'm using white flavour modelling paste. Just going to try and get it really nice and thin. Just need it to be slightly larger there. So I'm just using my small palette knife to cut around the outline. You can use a craft knife for this, or just a sharp kitchen knife. Okay. So what I want to do now is lift this without disturbing the shape. So if I just use my palette knife to just lift it from the surface, I'm going to keep the template over the top so that I know how to place it back down. So once I've got it on there, I can just move it as I need to. So I'm just going to move it over a little bit because the horn's not quite on. That's pretty much stayed in the right place. So what I'm going to do now is mark out all the areas. So using the Dresden tool and just following the outline on the template. I'm not going to put all the tiny little details in, just the larger sections. Just these little separate areas of the mane. And that should be enough. And the reason I'm doing this is so I know where to pad it out, so that when I'm building up the picture it's all going to stay in the same proportion. So I'm just using the Dresden tool now just to go over it a little bit more so that I can see the pattern a little bit more. See, it was hiding a little bit in the background there. So that should be enough. So I'm leaving the pattern there anyway, so I can keep referring back to it. And now moving on to normal white sugar paste with a little bit of CMC in. I'm going to start padding out the sections of the unicorn's head. So using the water brush, I'm just going to put a light covering of water all over. And starting with the front of the face, I'm modelling the shapes so that they match the actual shape of the head, rather than just putting random pieces down. The head, the neckline here, or the jawline, needs to be slightly more padded than the head. The horn needs hardly any padding at all, so just a long thin carrot shape. That's all that's needed there. This back ear doesn't need anything, and this section here of the mane doesn't need anything either. For the ear that's in the foreground, just going to pad that out a little bit. And then just going to try and get the right kind of shapes to pad out the rest of the horse. So this, the neck part needs to be a lot slimmer, a lot more shallow than the head. And then gradually, as I work down, I can pad out a little bit more. So I'm starting with the long carrot shape for the mane, and as I work my way down, it can get slightly more padded. I'll just keep blending the sections in. Okay, so there's just a little bit more to do at the top there. Oops. And then just a little bit there. And that should be enough. So what I can do now, I'm just going to make sure it's all nice and smooth. Might need to highlight a few sections again, just slightly. And now I'm going to work on the top covering. The top covering will need to be the perfect one, because none of this is going to be seen now. So before I start rolling out the sugar paste, I'm just going to use a bit of water on the areas that I'm going to cover first. So all the white parts of the head and neck, I'm just going to use the water to make those sticky. I'm not going to touch any of the mane at this point. So this covering needs to be fairly thin, but not that thin that I'm going to see all the elements underneath. So if I start down the bottom here, I'll try and get as much of the neck in as possible. And try to do it in one piece rather than several. So I'm just feeling for the outline. I'm just going to trim as neatly as I can, sticking to the original picture. Just taking all the excess away and then smooth it out a bit more. It's important that I do sections all in one without joining up, because it'll look so much neater. So for that reason, I'm going to cut round the jaw, and then I'll do that section all in one. So, just for the head now, just make sure it's big enough. Fill around the outline again. And then I'm just going to trim all the way around. Sometimes it's worth just marking out the outline a bit more so that the cutting is neater. If the outline is a little bit rough, then just take the Dresden tool and smooth it all out a bit more. And here I'm just going to make sure this join is a bit tidier. So using the Dresden tool, I can just get in there and smooth it out a bit more. I'm just going to add the ear back on. and I'll smooth that in a bit, but also give it a little bit of detail. So I'm using the Dresden tool there just to make the ear look slightly open. Give it a bit more shape. So I can also just add the detail for the eye and the nose at this point. And by placing the template over, I can just mark that detail back in. And then go over it again. So just using the ball tool to shape the nose. So for the horn, I'm going to use some yellow. It's just a nice pale shade of yellow. I'll put a little bit of water over the horn. Just going to use the Dresden to mark around it. And then trim that. So once all the excess is off, and I can add a bit of detail to that, so just a couple of marks. So now for the mane, there is a little section of ear there that just needs a little bit of white paste over the top, so I'll do that first. And then that just finishes off the ears. So using different colours now for the mane. I've got pink, blue, like a teal colour, and a red. I'll start with the pink. I'm going to work my way down in colours. So pink, red, then light blue, then the deeper teal. Right, so starting with the pink, let's roll it out and using a bit of water first, just cover the top section. Place it on and just trim round using the Dresden tool first. To shape it. and then smooth it in. I'm going to add finer details to it at the end. So at the moment it's just about getting the colour in there. I'll use a little bit more here. I'm just going to blend that in. And moving on to the red. I'm just mixing a bit of the red with the pink. So just covering behind the ear. And then I'm going to use just the red on its own to finish that section. So again, using the Dresden tool just to find where that section finishes. And then just separating those two colours there. These can then be blended in. And then moving on to the blue. Just placing that into that section. And trimming that down. Then a little bit of this teal to finish off. Just making sure that area's wet. and just smoothing that in with the other blue, so I can't see any gaps then. And of course there's a little bit here, so I'll use that blue again. And then just complete that section. Right, so what I'm going to do now is just put some more detailing. Just moving that out of the way. Trying to get rid of any mess, as it can quite easily get into the picture. So, I'm using the Dresden tool now just to add the direction of the mane. So it's quite tricky, so you just have to take your time when you do this. Just make sure the ear isn't hiding there. So I've got a little bit of excess here I could do with removing. And while I'm here, I'm just going to model that ear a little bit more. And then some more detail in the blue sections, which is a little bit more tricky because they're little curves. Okay, and then a couple of little lines there. So to finish this off, I'm going to use a little bit of black. Just running out a nice thin black line, so that I can do the eye. It's quite tricky because the black is quite soft. So I'm going to put a slight amount of water on the eye. and then arranging this thin black sausage, I'm just going to trim it down. And then make some tiny pieces to come off the bottom. So I'm just going to trim those down on my hand. So I'm tapering the end, cutting a bit, then tapering again and cutting a section. I need about 4 or 5 of those. And it's just carefully lifting them and placing them on. It's quite tricky. Maybe you can use a knife to help pick up pieces if you find it difficult. Okay, and then I want to add just a couple of little stars, well, hearts, onto the design. I'm going to use the yellow to do that. I've got 2 different size heart cutters, and I think I'll just do a couple of the larger ones, place a little bit of water where they need to go. There we go. And then a few of the smaller ones, so a couple up here and mainly on the neck. So using a little bit of pearl white, I'm just going to add a little bit of sheen to the mane and the horn. I'm not using a lot. I'm just going to make sure the bush isn't too heavy with dust, and then just dusting over the mane and the horn, just so that when the light touches it, it will show this little bit of sheen. And the little unicorn will look a little bit more magical. It does make a difference. And there you go, a little unicorn head. Thank you for watching my tutorial. I hope you liked it. Please be sure to visit my website or my YouTube channel, where you will find many more.